Delving into the labyrinth of words, we must suffer from the powerlessness of our cerebral prowess. We toil and struggle, weary under the capricious distortion of letters, disoriented from the inevitable deviation of our own utterance. Lost in despair, we roam in a multitude of insignificance, only to be guided by the ranting of the unknowing peasants, whose misjudgment misleads us so that the profundity of our disbelief can only be deepened until the supposed intelligible language becomes gibberish nonsense. But fear not, for 'tis not the maze through which we trudge. Fear not, for 'tis not ours who err. For words are but wild roses blooming alongside the path of our journey, waiting in a docile manner for us to pick up. Discarded, the roses do not lose hope, do not abandon us, for it shall bloom again with its brothers and sisters, stretching into infinity. And all that is asked of us is our persistence in our pace, steadily moving onward. Sans attention, sans intention, sans deliberation, we shall find ourselves embracing an armful of roses, blossoming from our bosoms of learned wisdom. Now, the words I have been using are of a higher caliber of English vocabulary, which is our main subject today. English vocabulary is always confusing us, so much so that we give up. When a certain description is needed, is required, it is always difficult to conjure up words for us to use. If it is your wish to master English, I'm afraid I must ask you to stop memorizing vocabulary. It is not only useless, it is detrimental to our learning process, because our brain doesn't work that way. I have seen people with excellent memory. When I was in medical school, for instance, all of my classmates are smarter than me by a huge degree. They can memorize the technical terms of all the muscles or the blood vessels and tendons. The capacity of memory for the doctors is incredible. It's just unbelievably good. However, even they will struggle with English words and vocab. And I can't help but think that if such beautiful mind will fail to register the English words in their brain for uses in occasions other than tests, then I must ask you guys, what is the use for us ordinary people to try to memorize words in order to use it? There are 5 main points that I would like to share with you in a short videos in terms of accumulating vocabulary for English language. If you have watched my other videos, you will see how much emphasis I am putting on reading novels, reading stories that have a narrative. A novel of great length that is written by one author only, so that the entire vocabulary of that author will be repeating again and again and again. So that is my first advice. Words will repeat again and again. We don't have to stop to memorize it. We can check it out on a dictionary. We can guess the meaning from context. But we don't have to, and never do we have to stop and memorize it. Like 10 words a day, 20 words a day, 100 words a day. It doesn't work like that. For instance, in the Da Vinci Code, you will see the word fresco. It means wall painting. The first time you see it, you will not be able to memorize it straight away. How about the second time? The third time, the 20th time, the 100th time, because the story will bring us to the great Renaissance artist Leonardo da Vinci, to his famous fresco, The Last Supper. Since it will be a theme of a heated conversation, then you will see this word again and again and again, and at the end of the day, you will be able to understand the word. The second advice I must give is to guess from context. When I talk about context, it doesn't really mean the word immediately preceding or succeeding the word in question. I mean the entire story For instance, when you just wake up from the darkness and you turn on the light, and then you will squint at your surrounding. What does it mean, squint then? Well, if you just turn on the light, your eyes must be adjusting to the light. Then the word squinting must means you see with your eyes half closed, right? And then the third advice is that because as English learners, as Chinese speakers, we will inevitably consult the English-Chinese dictionary. However, the definition that the dictionary gives you will be quite strange almost all of the time. For instance, I was reading Twilight Saga. I was reading about a story when Bella is trapped underwater, and she says something like, the current just wouldn't let up. Now, current has a lot of meaning. If you see current as denoting the meaning of the present, then the sentence, the current wouldn't let up, will mean nothing. And also, the last two words, let up. Let will, in Chinese, it will mean making somebody to do something, yes? Letting you go, allowing you to leave, to do things, to produce things, to sing, for instance. But let up here would mean give up. The current wouldn't let up, which means that the ocean current is relentless. It doesn't let you go. So the current wouldn't let up. 这个洋流不会让你跑上去. Then when it refuses to let you reach the surface, it means that you are trapped by the current under the water, right? When we check the dictionary, remember 4 words, 4 very important words in learning English. 不求甚解. Okay? This is not rocket science. This is just a simple language. Next advice is that the simple words have meanings, and their meanings are actually more important than the nouns or the adjectives, or even the verbs. For instance, prepositions like to will mean something like 去对于那个方向. And in, of course, it means 在里面. And with means 在一起使用. By means 借由 or 被人家怎么样. And also, the relative pronouns have meaning as well. When I see the word that, I will think about the meaning of 的, 什么什么的, or 说. It's like, I believe that you are pretty. 我相信说你是很漂亮的. And how about other relative pronouns like where? I would translate it as 的地方. How about who? 的人. How about what? 的东西. I like what you are saying. 我喜欢你正在说的东西. In Taiwan, I believe whenever I ask people about the meanings of the word what, and people will say 是什么, but when you put it into a sentence, then it doesn't make sense. So don't do that. Yeah? Using grammar and the context to understand the meaning of these simple words, such as one of the things that troubled most of the Taiwanese students is I would have gone out for a movie. In Chinese translation, it would mean 本来我本来要去看电影的. I would have gone out for a movie. In terms of tenses, we don't actually have to draw the timeline. We just use Chinese translation to understand it. And for me, these kind of words are the most important English words in English vocabulary. My last advice is that according to my second lessons, English sentences can be divided into the main sentence, the subject, verb, object, the clauses with a conjunctive at the beginning or a relative pronouns at the beginning, and then the phrases. We kind of divide every sentence into these small units. That's the first step. And the second step, we use literal translation. Now, don't feel scared because the meaning will be strange. It will sound strange because of the orders of things. And then the next step is to use your Chinese logic to rearrange those units, those translated units together. And then the last step is to use the most natural sounding Chinese or Cantonese, whatever your native language is, to read it out again. And then the meaning in your own translation will be the meaning that you can learn about that particular English words you are trying to get. So for instance, like impressive, the word impressive, in our textbooks, we will say that it means 令人印象深刻的. However, after seeing a movie, you may read that a person is saying to his friend that, wow, the movie was impressive. In Chinese, you will not say, 这部电影真是令人印象深刻. It sounds strange, it sounds weird. But for me, my Chinese is a bit more vulgar than usual, so I would say that, wow, 这部电影好屌. Then, for me, impressive will always mean 屌. So whenever I want to say something like, 你做的事情好屌, I will use, what you're doing is so impressive, right? So you will be able to use those words that you learned into your daily conversations. And that, my friends, will be how we learn vocabulary. We read on, we don't stop, we kind of translate them, according to my advices, into the Chinese that we are used to. And then those meanings are for you to use. Even though we may make mistakes, it doesn't really matter. All we want is to use English to explore the world, to meet new friends, to have new and exciting experiences. Isn't it? So this is today's lesson. Please do forgive me for not being able to produce videos as frequently as I wish. However, if you are interested in more discussions, please follow me on my Instagram, my Line, or my Facebook fan page. I will strive to answer your questions as much as I can. See you in our next lessons. Ciao. To be or not to be, that is the question. But it is fate that calls to us, and we shall answer with piety and devotion until the day we rejoice together, celebrating your ultimate success.